Welcome to Technology Blows, the techno-pessimist podcast that fans wait in line for hours to see. If you're going to be drinking while you listen to this podcast, just show my guest Meg here your ID. She'll give you a little audio bracelet so you can have some audio pilsners while you listen to this podcast. And I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome, Meg.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I very love to be on a podcast.
Yes.
Don't get to do it very often, so happy to be here.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen each other since we met on that train and we signed a dark oath to both be on each other's podcasts, and now it's
now it is complete.
Yes.
And after this episode, we are both going to turn into dust.
Yeah. So if you're expecting an episode next week, no good.
No luck.
Yep, no luck unless you want to listen to a pile of dust tell you about cash registers. Meg and I had been friends for basically forever. I don't know if you have any projects, Meg, that you want to plug.
23 years, Dan.
23 goddamn years. Wow.
Yep, 2003. Projects. Sure. Yeah, I have a Nicolas Cage podcast that is currently on hiatus, but we have a lot of back episodes up, and we are eventually going to release some new episodes. It's called Unlocking the Cage, and you can find it anywhere you see podcasts. If you live in Los Angeles, you can come see me do a lot of improv shows. I don't know. They're like fine. But
yeah, people know what improv shows are. People know improv shows are fine.
I know, but like mine are like fine. We're not, I'm not like a professional or anything. And you can find me on Instagram at Meg Does Improv. Is it Meg Does Improv or Meg Doing Improv? I'll let you know shortly. The answer is Meg Does Improv. I also have a birding Instagram. If you like that shit. More, Meg Goes Birding. Great. Those are I can promote.
That's great. I don't have enough bird content in my life.
That's one place to start.
Well, Meg, dear, so today we're talking about Ticketmaster. Do you have any planning to go to any concerts coming up?
Not concerts, but it's actually an interesting week that this is coming up, because right now in Los Angeles, we have the Netflix is a Joke Festival, which is a lot of different comedy shows. And I think I have tickets to see about 5 of them this week. Although I did check in anticipation of this episode, and none of them were actually through Ticketmaster. They were all, actually, no, one of them was through Ticketmaster. I saw Philomena Kunk. Do you know who she is?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so she did a panel with her and Charlie Brooker from Black Mirror. And that one was through Ticketmaster, and that was very cool. But then we have a lot of other ticket things like, let's see, I think I had one through C Tickets. I had one through Squad Up. It really seems like the Squad Up.
Don't mind if I do.
Eventbrite, obviously. But it does seem like a lot of different options for buying tickets. At least, I don't know how many of them are local to Los Angeles or how many of them are wider spread.
That's great to hear.
Yes.
That's great to hear because Ticketmaster sucks real bad. And I know Eventbrite. So like I was originally going to do an episode on like ticketing systems, but there's so many of them and they're all of such varying quality and they have such varying stories. So I thought maybe someday, because I got stuff to say about Eventbrite that is not all positive, but
yeah.
But I figured let's do the big daddy of the ticket,
the big one
services first, and then we'll see where we're at. I'm going to go see the Mountain Goats next weekend with Kristen. That's going to kick ass.
Oh, amazing! Where is that a Ticketmaster ticket?
I know. So everything here is AXS.
Yes, I've heard of them as well. Yeah.
We'll talk about where that came from because the guy who is the main character of the first part of this podcast episode is started that one also, but we'll get there. And then it ended up they all just get bought up by the same people. It's disgusting. I would say my least favorite part of the ticketing experience, the concert experience, is where you have to go out into the far corner of the parking lot because you can't get any data signal. And if you can't get any data signal, then your concert tickets won't load on your phone.
Okay.
So you have to like, I've had multiple experiences where I have to like, go far away from everybody else and then hold my phone up over my head so that my ticket will load so that I can get into the show, which
Is
is,
this a local experience, you feel like, or is this a wider spread
it
experience?
may
Is
just
it
be,
just bad signal in your neighborhood?
it may just be Wallingford, but, but, I think it's also just because like if you go to the Toyota Oakdale Theater in Wallingford,
I
that
recall that I've been there several times,
I'm
actually.
sure you have.
Yeah,
Meg and I both grew up in Connecticut, so we
that's true.
know a lot
Yeah.
of the same concert venues. Yeah, that it's just like so everybody's so packed in there that nobody's getting cell signal, and everybody forgot that they were going to need cell signal in order to load their goddamn concert ticket because that's how things work now.
It's not like you can screenshot it because a lot of
Right.
them have the sort of like moving
Oh, we're going to
whatevers.
talk
Yeah.
about the moving
We're going to talk
bar.
about. Okay, great, great. I'm
Yeah,
glad.
it's quite a innovation in ticketing technology. So in 1991, an LA Times reporter bought a ticket to see Dan Fogelberg at the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater, which was
Who's
listed.
Dan Fogelberg?
Dan
Is he from
Fogelberg.
Steely Dan?
No, I don't think so. I thought he was in CCR, but then Wikipedia told me he's not in CCR. What did he sing? He sang. He had a string of hits in the '70s, including "Leader of the Band" and like he was a sort of a folky
Never heard of Dan
folk singer in
Fogelberg.
the '70s. Yeah,
All right, all right.
he was pretty big act in the '70s. In the 1991, his tickets were selling for listed for $25.
Oh, that's expensive for 1991.
Yes, and that was just the face value. So on top of the face value, this article describes making liberal use of eye roll quotes. There was a $1 per ticket box office service fee, a facility surcharge of $2.25, and then on top of that, there's a separate convenience fee of $5.75 if you want to order over your phone. And then finally, of course, there was a processing fee for the whole order of $2.05, bringing the bottom line to $35.05, over 40% higher than the original list price. And I want to talk about how we got there today. Nowadays, face values for tickets are for concerts are like 10 to 100 times higher than that. And the fees are less itemized. You can't really see what all the individual fees are anymore because of some laws that were passed recently. A lot of the fees have been replaced with things like, meet and greet opportunities with Lil Jon, VIP upgrades.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what concert you go to; it's always Lil Jon. That's
Yes,
just what he travels around as a perk.
the hardest working man in show business.
Yeah,
I saw him open for a local punk band the other day. It just they had a big shiny glittery background. You could meet Lil Jon for 5 seconds before you saw the DIY punks. Yeah, and that's that like $200, $300, I think, if you want the Lil Jon meet Lil Jon experience.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what he does, right?
I think so. I think he's the yeah one.
My, my lowest put impression is that I've never worked on that one, but I'll work on it for next time.
I mean, I don't think anybody should work very hard on a Lil Jon impression. I thought that was pretty good as far as Lil Jon impressions go. Anyway, I think we all know from experiencing Ticketmaster a couple times, we all know that Ticketmaster is not a company that does anything, right?
I agree.
It exists. It simply exists between you and something you need and makes money that way. And that thing that you need is, of course, music. Music is something that we as humans cannot live without. It's an ancient magic, older than speech, that puts our spirits into resonance with one another, even across time and space, and makes us, for a moment, one being. It comes from deep inside us, beneath rationality. But what is rational, sadly, is that companies will see a basic human need, build a wall around it, and charge us to go through the gate. So, this is a story of how a series of completely reasonable business decisions ended up producing a system that is utterly unreasonable. It's the story, Meg, of how the live concert industry stops making sense.
Ooh.
And so I want to bring out the main characters in our story one at a time onto the stage, starting with the most important one, who strolls out onto the empty stage with nothing but a boombox and a big suit, and that's the musician, the act. So, like, people have probably been playing music probably at least as long as we've been speaking. I don't need to explain why we make music. We all know why we make music. It's beautiful and we love it. So that's where musicians come from. The next character, right away, to come out on the stage is the fan, right? People love music of a particular musician. They'll go out of their way to go see that musician perform. And they get and the musician and the fan get to mind meld for a beautiful moment. So for like 99% of human history, those are the only two classes of people who were involved in music. People playing it and people watching them play it with their direct eyeballs within earshot of them, right? It's not until the 1800s that we start enclosing dedicated buildings for the performance of music, which we'll call venues. So if you're following along with the stop making sense metaphor, this is Chris France coming on to play drums on "Thank You for Sending Me an Angel" on Stop Making Sense. I was like, what? How can I explain all these? How can I explain all these characters in a way Meg in particular will appreciate? I know.
Couldn't
Stop.
understand it any other way.
Yeah, that's right.
This is the only thing I know.
Good. So venues are the first character on our stage that's not directly involved in music, right? They have space, they have equipment, they have seats, but it's neither the supply nor of for concerts, nor is it the demand for concerts. It's essentially like a market where musicians can sell their shows and fans can buy shows, and the venue puts them together. Is this sort of? I mean, is this similar? You work in the theater. What is this similar to how it works with stage performances that are not music?
I mean, absolutely. Like you can do an improv show in a park, but it's going to be bad. Like it's going to be hard to hear people. There's going to be a lot of ambient stuff going on, and then so it's much better to pay for a space to perform.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm also imagining I have a really fun graphic in my mind going on. That's the characters sort of stop making sense with like little labels on them. I don't know if you can add that in
Maybe I'll
post.
make a GIF or
Yeah.
do a TikTok with that. Yeah, exactly. So do you book it? You have to you pay to book the venue in advance, and then you take
Yes.
part of the door. Okay.
Yeah, or if you're in some certain circumstances, there's a venue that will let you perform for free, and then they take the full door. But those, it's just you if you want to do it all yourself, you definitely have to pay for a venue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So we have lots of different kinds of venues now, and as soon as the venue was invented for music, at least, you had to simultaneously invent the ticket. For basically for two reasons. First of all, it was mostly opera houses, and putting on an opera is expensive. You gotta buy lots of costumes, big elaborate sets. You maybe need hundreds of performers for some operas. You got a whole dang orchestra. So somebody's got to pay the venue to make sure that and pay for all this stuff to put on the show in advance. Before opera houses, you probably get like a wealthy patron to pay for your show, but this is the mid to late 1800s, so a lot of the wealthy patrons in Europe have recently been guillotined or otherwise. And so, now we've got venues which you need to raise some capital before you can put on a show. The second reason they needed to invent tickets is if with tickets you can sell different tickets at different prices. Right? You can charge extra for front row seats. you can charge way extra for a balcony, and that lets the venues take in more revenue per performance and lets the like different opera houses and music halls compete with each other. So okay, so now we have tickets, we have musicians, we have fans, we have venues. As soon as we invent tickets, we also invent accidentally the ticket scalper. The earliest mention I could find of ticket scalpers in the American newspapers was from an 1875 issue of the Chicago Inter-Ocean newspaper. Interestingly, it's a bulletin about a pair of ticket scalpers getting $250 worth of tickets stolen from them by a quote sneak thief, which I find very funny. This is like it's not about the scalping; it's about that somebody else was stealing. It's like ticket scalping has always been sort of crime adjacent,
Right.
right? It's like it's not a crime, but the people who do it tend to be like large, scary looking men who meet you in an alley. Like it's sort of right there. It's intertwined with crime, kind of.
Sneak Thief, though. I don't want us to gloss over Sneak Thief. That's very funny.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure 1875 Chicago was rotten with
Full of
sneak
sneak thieves.
thieves. Yeah, you couldn't. They're sneak thieving each other. It's a whole ecosystem. Uh, yeah. The scalpers though are not robbing anybody. It's just sort of like what happens when the venue is selling tickets for less than the tickets could go for,
Mhm.
and then you end up with people selling them. It's nobody's favorite thing about concerts, but at the scale of like the parking lot scalper, it's not really a big deal, right?
Right.
Now, at the modern scale, we'll see how Ticketmaster's own decisions make scalping into a much bigger problem than it used to be, uh, because now we have bots. But we'll get to that. Now, finally, coming on stage to round out our cast is our last good guy or no neutral guy, which is the concert promoter. Promoters start appearing in the 50s when pop music is becoming a thing. Suddenly you've got all these bands crisscrossing the nation, playing shows in a different city every night, right? And if you're a band from like Detroit, you probably don't know any of the 24 or so music venues in Providence. So you don't know which one you should book, how many seats you would be able to fill there, how much you should pay to book it. You probably even have barely enough cash to get to Providence, much less book a show there. So you got to hire a promoter usually. In Providence, that would be Frank Russo. There's just the guy in Providence who owns the Providence area. He's the promoter. You call Frank Russo. He knows all the venues. He knows how many seats will fill up with for what act on what night of the week. He knows he has relationships with all the venues, and most importantly, Frank Russo has a big bag of cash that he can use to pay a venue to book your show. Where did Frank Russo get that cash, you ask? Don't worry about where Frank Russo got that cash. He's got it. Just think of him as an investor. He's gonna if your show sells out, he gets his money back plus profit. If nobody shows up because all the hip teens are at like a sock hop that night, Frank Russo takes a bath. That's part of his business. He's willing to do that for you. Good old Frank. So there ends up being this whole network of these guys, concert promoters. If you're going to Boston, you get in touch with Don Law. If you're going to San Francisco, you get in touch with Bill Graham.
These real
And
people, by
these
the
are
way?
real people. Yeah, these are real people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Bill Graham. Bill Graham. He had a super big promotion company called Bill Graham Productions, and that like owned all of the San Francisco market for rock and pop shows in the 70s. It's not perfect. It's not a Garden of Eden. It involves a fair amount of exploitation and graft, and the concert promoters are fiercely territorial and they're all in bed with the mob. But there's a thriving 1970s rock scene, which proves that this works somehow. It's causing music to be played for people, and it kind of just works out until it breaks. And it happens in where you live. It breaks in L.A. That's where the birth of the ticket vendor market and Ticketmaster in particular happens in L.A.
And that makes sense because Stop Making Sense was recorded at the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles.
You are correct, Meg. See, it's all about you today. I thought.
Thank you. That's important to me.
So it stops working, and the whole industry starts to implode over the next 60 years. It starts with a company not called Ticketmaster, but called Ticketron. This is the first.
Yes.
You know Ticketron?
I've heard it before. One of my favorite, I don't know if you like Run the Jewels, but one of my favorite Run the Jewels songs is called Ticketron.
Nice. I don't know that song.
It's from RTJ 3, I believe.
That's great. Nobody talks about Ticketron. Ticketron anymore. But they were big. So Ticketron is the first like big ticket vendor. Ticket vendor is the business that sells tickets to the show. They don't own the tickets. They're not putting on the show. They have nothing to do with any of that. They're just they have the tickets from the venue and they're selling them to you, and they make a little profit on top of that. Ticketron was owned by one of the earliest American computer hardware manufacturers, Control Data Corporation, which was a competitor to IBM back in the day. They somehow through a series of transactions that actually involves one of the scion of the like Seagram's family that owns like Seagram's gin. It puts up a lot of money for this, and Control Data Corporation ends up owning this ticket company. And they make a crucial discovery about the ticket vending business, which is you cannot make money by charging the venue a cut of the ticket price. You can't be like, we're going to charge you 5% of every ticket to do ticketing for you. The venue will never agree to that because they've been selling their tickets at the box office forever, since there were venues, and it costs them basically nothing to sell tickets at the box office. So why would they give you a cut of the tickets? They'll just sell.
They're going to do that either way. Like they're not going to stop selling tickets at the box office.
Exactly. If there's nowhere else to buy tickets, people will come to the box office and wait in line and get tickets there. They don't care. The promoter also will not accept this system because the promoter has already put up money for the show, and now he's being forced to share his profit with these computer nerds. It's a total non-starter for Ticketron. So they shift gears, and Ticketron is actually the one that invents the ticketing service fee that we all know so well today. So that's on top of, they're like, okay, the face value is all yours. We're not touching the face value. We're going to add another fee on top of the ticket that is the service fee, and then that's how we get paid. We take the service fee. This is what like melts the concert industry from the inside out. But it works pretty well for them initially. They're charging tiny fees because they're like, well, we don't want to make the customer mad, the ticket buyer upset. Then they won't buy the tickets through us, and we won't make any money. We need to make sure we charge like a 75-cent per ticket, like under $1 fee on every ticket, no matter how much the ticket is. And that's kind of nice that they were thinking, oh, let's not alienate the fans.
And just for my own, so at this point in time, we're in the 80s, you said?
This is this is the late 1970s.
All right, late 70s. Okay. So at this point, you have the option to still go to the box office and pick up a ticket in person, right?
Generally, you must go to the box office and pick up a ticket in person.
And so is what the value that they're adding, the ability, because this is, in the 70s, this is really pre-internet. So like, is the value that they're adding the ability to buy it over the phone?
That's part of it. So Ticketron has terminals. It's not until later that Ticketron starts putting terminals in the actual venues. Initially, the Ticketron terminal is in like a Bloomingdale's
Gotcha.
or your bank, or it's somewhere where people go and they're like, "Oh, why don't I buy a ticket to see a play later? There's a Ticketron terminal here. I can like plug in my info and I can get, or I can like put in my cash and I can get some tickets to see a show later at the Ticketron terminal." And then you pay the service fee. If you go to the box office initially, you're still just paying face value and you're not paying Ticketron for the ticket.
Gotcha. Okay, so the added value for the customer is the ability to buy tickets to see Steely Dan at the Bloomingdale's.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
and interesting. I hope this isn't too much of a quick sidebar, but I did encounter this recently. So I was in Japan, and they have in the 7-Elevens and the Lawsons and all the convenience stores, they have a ticket terminal, basically, like
Oh,
that you can buy tickets to concerts. And I was trying to get tickets to like a wrestling show or something that I had heard, like a Japanese wrestling show that was supposed to be really fun.
oh yeah.
And we couldn't. I guess you could not buy them at the venue. You had to go to this ticket terminal, and so of course it's like not in English. So we were using our phone to translate, and we spent a long time digging through this ticket terminal to try to figure out how to buy a ticket to the show. Turns out it was sold out, but it was a
Oh,
real big accomplishment that we were able to use our phone to translate to get through this fully Japanese ticket terminal in a convenience store.
I mean, I bet it didn't feel like that big an accomplishment at the time because what you ended up finding out is it was sold out.
But it was, we were like, all right, we did our due diligence.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because I don't know, I don't really see that in the US, or maybe I'm just not looking for it.
No.
But is it still in the US, like a ticket terminal?
No, I've never seen one. They were big in the like late 80s, early 90s. You'd go to a Sam Goody. It would be at a Sam Goody, right? You'd go to
Yeah.
a CD store and you could buy a terminal at a CD store, a ticket at a CD store terminal. I don't know why that didn't. I think the I think what ended up happening is that we in the '90s, you they ended up going fully online ticket sales, and ticket at that time Ticketmaster owned. We'll get there, but Ticketmaster owned all of the. They owned like 90% of the ticketing, so you know they could just decide we're not doing terminals anymore, and there are no more terminals.
It makes sense. I'm surprised that it's still a thing in Japan. I wonder what the difference is, because obviously they have the internet too. Use it all the
Yeah,
time.
right. I wonder if it just never if there was never enough of a monopoly for anyone to just decide that like this is how tickets are sold now, right? If
Yeah.
there's multiple businesses all running, maybe they all have their own way of doing things. I don't know. Now, by the 1980s, Ticketron's starting to lose more and more business, especially in LA, to an upstart called Ticketmaster. Very similar company. Key differentiator is probably that Ticketron is run by computer nerds. Ticketmaster is run by the mob. I'm not kidding. Literally in 1981, Ticketmaster gets bought by they're doing a little bit of business early, but then in 1981 they get bought by this guy Bert Cantor, who is an attorney for the Chicago
Cantor's
mob.
Deli?
Uh,
Any
I don't
any relation?
think so. I don't know. Kanter.
Oh no, the no.
Different
Cantor's Deli
guy.
is with a C.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to tell nobody if I don't want to tell anybody that Cantor's Deli is involved with the Chicago mafia. Different guy. Although maybe I don't know. Is it
I think
good?
they're safe. I think it's fine. But it's with the C, so I think they're safe. But yeah, I've only been there once or twice. But it is an institution. It's from 1931.
Wow,
Let's, yeah,
dang.
which is
Uh,
pretty old for Los Angeles.
yeah, right. I
Yeah,
mean, you guys didn't have like water until like 1920.
yeah, that sounds right.
Uh, so Bert Cantor, no relation to Cantor's Deli, is buys this company, most of this company, and he puts his friend Fred Rosen in charge. Fred Rosen is going to be the CEO of Ticketmaster for the next 16 years. He's he's a brilliant businessman by all accounts, dogged. He can always find a deal, and also by all accounts, including his own, he could not give less of a shit about music. He Fred Rosen has been to see so many of the great rock acts of the 20th century: Steely Dan, the Rolling Stones, Neil Diamond. He's fallen asleep at all of them. Like, he's very well known in the industry for like falling asleep at concerts.
This is not a bit. This is actually,
No, this is true.
yeah.
Like, he went to see the Rolling Stones with Paul Allen, the Microsoft one of the Microsoft co-founders, and Paul Allen later said, yeah, he just fell asleep during the like second song. So this is really the guy you want running the entire music industry for 16 years. But on the bright side, he did care a lot about the reliability of Ticketmaster's systems. He would always tell his employees the system needed to be like rock solid in terms of security and throughput. And as a site reliability engineer, which is my trade, this warms my heart a little bit. It's very hard to make CEOs care about the reliability of computer systems when they're not actively on fire. So, but he would have like company wide meetings where he would call out. He would have a little cheer where he would call out like, "What's the most important thing?" And everybody would have to respond, "The system." It just makes me smile a little bit. I had to find something to say I could say nice about Fred Rosen because we got a lot a lot of other things to say about Fred Rosen for the rest of the episode. Um, so this obsessive interest in the system creates like a competitive edge for Ticketmaster over Ticketron. Ticketron's terminals are centralized. The terminal is always has to be like calling home over phone lines to a central server to be like, what tickets are available? Is this ticket sold? Will give me the whole list of tickets, and I know which ones I'm able to sell. And it has to connect to the central server to make transactions. Ticketmaster is much more decentralized. So a lot of the logic, a lot of the code lives on the terminal rather than on some sort of central server, which makes it much more efficient under periods of extreme load. Like if a box office just opened for a big football game, Ticketron might go down, or if you don't want your Ticketron to go down, you have to spend like a shitload of money on extra redundancy, whereas Ticketmaster won't go down, which is pretty big competitive advantage. But the big competitive advantage is more that Fred Rosen realizes something about the ticket business that Ticketron doesn't. The insight Fred Rosen has that will propel Ticketmaster into unchallenged dominance of the ticket business by the end of the decade, and from there to a position of unprecedented power over the entire concert business within 3 decades, is the insight that what keeps the money coming in is not happy fans or happy musicians. Those aren't Ticketmaster's customers. Ticketmaster's customers are, number one, the venue, and number two, the promoter. That's who Ticketmaster has to keep out to keep happy. In other words, fuck the fans. If the ticket buying experience is made shitty in some way, but it makes Ticketmaster and the promoters and the venues money, fine, great. People are going to buy the tickets anyway, and more money gets to be had by Fred Rosen and his buddies. Have you ever heard of Fred Rosen?
I've not heard Fred Rosen, no.
Okay. Apparently he turned into like a big LA NIMBY. He's started this association that's really against the Sepulveda transit corridor, and he like goes to town meetings and yells at everybody and tells them, you don't know who you're messing with. I'm Fred Rosen." He got like a bunch of Hollywood people together to like protest the new transit line.
Looking about him, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking into him, yeah. what is the Sepulveda Transit Corner is a oh it's a rapid transit line that does not exist to connect the San Fernando Valley to the LA Basin through the Sepulveda Pass. Okay, interesting. Oh, okay. So basically, it's a sorry. Just took me a second. It's a subway line that would go along the 405 over the mountains,
Yeah.
and that sounds like a good thing to me personally. I mean, we could use a lot more public transit in LA, but yeah, it sounds like he's got some sort of mansion over there and doesn't like it.
Yes, he does not want a tunnel dug under his house.
And he's apparently very mean to individual LA Metro staff that said that they deserve no courtesy and are entitled to no respect. So he's just yelling at subway conductors. This
Yep.
guy sounds like a real dick.
He's a complete dick. He really is. Yeah, got out of the music business around like 2008, 2009, and then he just got into the yelling at subway conductors
It's
business.
insane.
He's gonna die doing what he loved.
Yep.
So yeah, what he does in the 70s, and once he figures out the distinction between once he figures out who his real customer is, he starts going to meeting with venue owners around LA, and he tells them, "Hey, you have Ticketron, right? Ticketron adds a service fee of 75 cents per ticket." They're like, "Yeah." He says, "Well, our service fee is going to be $1.50." And the venue's like, "Why would we want to pay more for an in service? Why would we want to have the service fee be double? That doesn't make any sense." He says, "Well, we're going to give you 50 cents of it."
Nice.
And that's the whole thing. He's like, we're going to give you. In fact, we'll give you $1 million cash advance today against rebates that you're going to get for future for future ticket sales. We'll just give you $1 million now if you sign an exclusive contract with us that we sell all of your tickets and nobody else gets to sell your tickets, and you just get kickbacks, excuse me, rebates for every ticket that gets sold.
They just say, all right, well, so we're just going to take more money from the customer and we'll give you some of it. And now we're your exclusive vendor.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. See, I mean, I don't think it's a great thing to do, but it certainly makes sense as a strategy.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
works great.
Yeah.
It works obscenely well. The venues love it, obviously. The promoters don't love it right away, but Fred Rosen starts giving them kickbacks too, and everybody immediately. Ticketmaster has long-term exclusive ticket vendor deals with every venue and every concert promoter in LA. Ticketron just can't get any inventory. Everybody's selling with Ticketmaster. And they're Ticketmaster's expanding rapidly nationwide. And as they expand, we get to see this like really interesting structural quirk in this new business model that Fred Rosen has discovered. Because in most businesses, competition leads to lower prices for the consumer, right? They got to sell. One business starts selling for less, everybody else has to sell for less, everybody will go to the one that's selling for less. That's not how it works in this business. Because when there's multiple ticket vendors competing with each other, they bid up. They bid the ticket prices up so that they can have more money to share with the promoters and the venues. If they make the fee 3 times as high, then they have 3 times as much rebates to give back to the venues and the promoters, and so they get the business. And so competition does nothing to stem price rises. It in fact encourages price rises over and ticket prices just go like for the next 10 years they start to rise crazy fast, and they don't stop rising until, well, actually they still haven't stopped rising.
Yeah, I was going to say until when.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just not prepared for this. It's just like a fun little quirk of the concert industry. Gee whiz, right? This is the same. Incidentally, it's the same reason that like drinks are so expensive at concert venues because you have a concessionaire whose business is to sell drinks and food at your concert venue, and you're gonna end up picking the concessionaire who can give you the most money back as a proportion of the concession sales. And so that's why a Liquid Death costs $7.50 at the fucking College Street Music Hall.
And that makes sense here because the customer, the person buying it, doesn't have a choice.
No, right.
Yeah.
This is the only place you can get a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. See that. This is not music venue related, but I fly in and out of the Burbank airport whenever I can do so, and was recently horrified to find that a juice, like a little ocean spray juice, costs $7.50.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like that seems wrong, but there's nowhere else I can buy it. You know, that's the prices are universal throughout the entire airport.
Yeah. Right. If you say no, the cashier can be like, "All right, well, see you later, I guess."
Yeah, there's no other options.
Yeah. We own all of the other ones too.
Yep.
Sucks bad. Another important part of how the fee structure works for Ticketmaster is this fee structure is complicated as shit, which is what that LA Times article was gesturing to, right? There's a per ticket service fee, there's a per order processing fee, then like the one that's the grossest to me is there's a facility charge usually, which Ticketmaster collects some money as a facility charge, which goes straight to the venue, which is basically just a give us more money, please fee that you have to pay. Then if you want to order by phone, there's a huge fee for that. Later, Ticketmaster starts hosting their own ticket resale platform for like secondary resale of tickets. So there's a resale fee for that. If you want your tickets mailed to you, you got to pay a delivery fee. Or if you don't want to pay the phone order fee and you want to order in person at a Ticketmaster outlet where you don't have to have things delivered to you, then you can pay the smaller in-person order fee. And eventually, once they start doing online sales, you can choose to skip the delivery fee and receive a printable PDF instead that you print yourself. That way, you only have to pay the digital download fee, which is a fee for sending you a goddamn PDF over email.
Yep. It's like part of buying a ticket is that it has to get delivered to you in some way, and so then it's just this extra fee that varies depending on how they send it to you.
Right.
It's like, why can't that be built in? Like, I'm just going to buy a ticket and then never see it.
Right.
I want to avoid that fee. Yeah.
I guess it's mostly so like it's initially it's so the promoters and the venues don't want don't have to say that they're charging the fees. Ticketmaster can sort of hide that they're like the complexity of the ticket fee structure helps the venues be like, well, we're only charging this face value, and Ticketmaster has all these fees that they have that are set up, and so Ticketmaster can like take the bruises for fans who are mad about the increased fees, and they don't mind. In fact, that's like explicitly one particularly candid Ticketmaster executive has said, Ticketmaster in effect agreed to take it on the chin for these contracts with venues. Part of the unspoken agreement, or maybe even spoken, was that Ticketmaster will be the face of ticketing. We'll take the bruises from people who don't like the process. This is like part of their value proposition.
Gosh. That's wild. Can you imagine being a customer service person at Ticketmaster where your job is just to get yelled at?
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And this is, sorry, move this real quick, slight other detour. I was just thinking while we were talking about, so there's a couple buildings near me that used to be concert ticket, like offices, I would say. Like they're just standalone buildings. I can think of two of them. One is in Atwater Village and one is in Burbank. And they're both shut down. Like they're both like for lease and have been for lease in a while, but they used to be a place that you go to buy concert tickets in person.
Huh.
I don't think they were necessarily associated with Ticketmaster, but I've always wondered what the deal is with those. But that seems to be an industry, a small storefront thing that does not really exist anymore. But it was there recently because they're still up for lease.
Maybe it was like the last Blockbuster.
Exactly. Yeah. Like it feels very retro. Like, oh, I'm going to go buy my ticket at this little office.
You know, there's something to be said for, I mean, I don't know. There's something to be said for waiting in line at a box office. I think because as inconvenient as it does not allow, it does not require Ticketmaster being involved in the process at all, and so there's no way for this like crazy, uh, you know, auction for who can charge the most in service fees to emerge. But
I,
we can't have nice things, so we don't have those anymore either.
I also wonder if just like waiting in line for something is kind of a dying thing.
Yeah.
Like I think of all the things that we used to wait in line for, like how many of those do we still wait in line for? But I'll tell you one place that is still going strong is my neighborhood really has a lot of like shoe
Oh
stores.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so the shoe people, the sneakerheads will get out and they'll put up their like lawn chairs and they'll wait overnight to get the sneaker drops.
Yeah. Uh, I I've seen there's a huge line in New Haven some nights at the yeah sneaker junk. I forget the name of the sneaker store is. Yeah, yeah. I've seen that big line. I wonder how they maintained the monopoly on customers waiting in lines for things.
It's interesting because it's like you can buy a sneakers online very easily. Like,
Yes.
and I'm sure that there are like sneaker resale places or sneaker, retail places in general where you can buy your sneaker drops. But I just wonder why that's one of the places that still has a culture of waiting in line for stuff.
Yeah. Maybe it's so everybody. I mean, maybe I don't know. Are your shoes are worn out by the time you're done waiting in line for the shoes, so you need new shoes now? I don't know.
The other one is weed shops. There's a place near me that on 420 gave the first like a couple people in line like $1,000 worth of weed.
Whoa.
And so we were there the day before for some reason, and there was a woman out there in a lawn chair just sort of sitting happily, and the security guard was like, "Yep, yeah, she's gonna be here overnight. She's gonna get $1,000 worth of
Yeah, I
weed bags."
mean, that actually makes a lot of sense.
But yeah,
Um,
I wonder the waiting in line culture,
Good reason to have a tent.
dying.
Yeah,
Yep,
I know.
dying thing.
I know. Uh, there's we had a thing for this. It was just a little bit inconvenient. People had to wait in lines, but on the other side of it, there weren't there weren't bots buying up 100% of
Yeah,
the tickets for your favorite concert in 10 minutes and then reselling them for 10 times the face value on some shady website.
yep.
So Ticketmaster will end up with a lot of power because they're willing to take these lumps. But back in the 1980s, there's still bands that have actual power, negotiating power, and one of these is the Grateful Dead. So I don't know a ton about the Grateful Dead, but I do know that they're if Ticketmaster sees the music experience as a commodity, the Grateful Dead are the opposite of that. They play for hours. They don't do banter. They come up and they play a long set. They take a break. They play another long set. They even they explicitly encourage their fans to record bootlegs
Right.
of their shows. Right, as everybody knows, if you've ever had as your school bus driver a 50-year-old acid casualty named Todd who listens to nothing but Grateful Dead bootlegs every goddamn day. There's like millions of these recordings. And this is how they get such intensely loyal fans who are still listening to nothing but Grateful Dead bootlegs 30 years later. They got fans following them from state to state uh, because they really are all about music. They're very suspicious of like money men, venue owners and promoters and stuff. And they end up they work with promoters, they obviously work with venue owners, but like they don't want to be involved in the bidding war. Anything Ticketmaster involved, as Ticketmaster starts coming up, they do not want to be involved in that. So they actually start their own ticketing company. Did you know this?
Interesting. No, I didn't know that.
It's called GDTS, Grateful Dead Ticketing System, I think. And it kicks ass because it's just for Grateful Dead tickets. They don't have any of the fancy technology that Ticketmaster has. They end up having their own like janky stoner ticket vending tech. It's very like if Ticketmaster is the Protoss where everything's powered by like shiny psychic crystals and glowing energy fields,
They're the Zerg.
they're the who's the Zerg? I was gonna say they
Oh,
were the
okay, never mind.
Terrans,
Fair enough. Fair
where
enough.
everything looks like it's built out of tractor parts. I think Live Nation is the Zerg. Maybe I'll try to figure out how to work that into the script next time. Uh, it's all just sort of like their hotline that you're supposed to call to find out information about the new shows is just a shelf with 10 digital answering machines on it. Rings in. There's one lady who just records the message and she has to like talk as fast as she can to fit it into the 3 minute digital recording loop. Uh, they have this whole complicated system where you have to like send a specific sized index card to GDTS that requests your tickets, how many tickets you want for what shows, um, send stamps with it so they can mail you back your tickets. It's a pain, which on one hand is a pain in the ass. On the other hand, it reduces scalping immensely
It's like it's
because,
just part of the experience.
and it's just part of the experience. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they start doing like psychedelic art on the outside of their ticket requests so that like people will notice them and they'll be more likely to get seats. It's really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, um, I love it too. It's very human. It's built on human relationships and human creativity. We need more technology like that in the world.
We used to do such fun stuff with mail,
Yeah,
you know? Like we'd mail in like cereal box barcodes and then we'd get
yeah.
prizes and stuff like that.
Do you remember how every like kids programming or educational thing in the 90s for kids would tell you like, did you know you can mail any object if you write the name, if the like address, if you put enough postage on it, and you can like mail a potato or a shoe, you
I was
can
gonna
mail
say
a
potato
sneaker.
is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
There was
Uh
like I feel like there was a whole prank industry of mailing people potatoes. Like you would pay someone to mail someone a potato.
really?
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but I really do think there's like a mail someone a potato service
I wonder why we
for a
stopped
while.
that. Maybe.
It's probably still there. I'm sure if I wanted to mail someone a potato, I could find someone to help me out.
All right, you test it. Get back to us. I gotta know. I would imagine somebody at some point must have started sending a potato with like anthrax in it, and so now you can't send potatoes anymore or something.
They ruined it for everybody.
Nobody's mailed me a potato anytime lately, so
I'll check your mail in 2 weeks. See what I can
yeah,
do. It'll be
yeah.
tie dyed on the outside too, just to fit with the theme.
Hey, and if anybody listening wants to send me a potato, also, I can't wait to cook all of the potatoes that you send me to my house. I'm sure my address is online. So this is beautiful. I think it's great. Good for the Grateful Dead. Ticketmaster, of course, hates it, and they're like they're powerful enough that and it scares them enough that Grateful Dead is able to like convince enough venues to do this with them that they're like violating enough of Ticketmaster's contract, like exclusive contracts, that it's causing them a great deal of anxiety about their money. So Ticketmaster sets up this big fancy meeting at the Hyatt with hors d'oeuvres picked out by Jay Pritzker himself. Big famous heir to the Pritzker fortune, who owns a large part of Ticketmaster, and they try to hash out a deal. It gets pretty heated. Fred Rosen accuses the Dead of interfering in a business relationship.
Oh, is he's at a fancy brunch with Jerry Garcia at this point?
Yes,
Is this what's happening? Okay,
correct.
gotcha.
Jerry's there. He does not want the caviar. I think he's not interested in the hors d'oeuvres. But he's there, and the other members of the band are there, and they have a lawyer. And their lawyer's really good. Their lawyer, Fred Rosen's like, you're by breaking these, by convincing the venues to break our contracts, you're interfering with a business relationship. Like that's illegal. We can sue you for that. And the Grateful Dead's lawyer is like, actually, about that, we're thinking about suing you for interfering in our business relationships because
Nice.
we've been playing these venues for 20 years. You just show up and say they have exclusive contracts with you. So I don't think so. Which rules and does the impossible. It shuts Fred Rosen up, and they end up with a handshake deal where Grateful Dead's allowed to sell half of their tickets to arena shows, which is basically what they were doing anyway. Which is awesome. Somebody actually, this is going to be like one of the last times, maybe the last time, that an artist has enough power to like challenge Ticketmaster and get a deal out of them.
Wasn't there? I'm sure this is way skipping ahead, but wasn't there something with Taylor Swift?
Yes, there was something with Taylor Swift, which I don't have in the script yet, but I could do some research for the
Next
next
time.
part, and
All
we'll,
right, sounds
we'll
good.
we'll talk about Taylor Swift. There was a big thing with Miley Cyrus, with a Hannah Montana show, but that's when we get to the scalpers.
Gotcha.
Nobody likes like all the artists, but all the artists, like the big artists, will talk a big game about hating Ticketmaster, and many of them do. I think a country star, released an album called "All My Homies Hate Ticketmaster,"
Nice.
but eventually they're all on the take from Ticketmaster too. Not all the artists, but the big artists, the ones that play the arena shows, are all getting their share of the service fees too. Anyway, so understandably, from between 1985, this meeting I think is in 1985, and between 1985 and 1991, Ticketmaster buys up 7 of its major competitors, including Ticketron. They buy up Ticketron, uh, and they end up with a 90% share of the concert ticketing market by 1991. 90%.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
One in 10 tickets to a concert in 1991 is sold by some in the United States is sold by someone other than Ticketmaster.
What's that today? Do you know?
I think it's I think it's lower because a lot of the Eventbrite and other there's also AXS. There's a few other competitors that cater to like somewhat different markets. AXS caters to like amphitheaters generally, and like Eventbrite caters to small theaters like the Space in Hampton, which I go to a lot. But and so there's a little bit more of a spread. But Ticketmaster has the big Live Nation Ticketmaster, or whatever. I think they're called Live Nation Entertainment now, has like all the big stadiums. They have exclusive contracts with all the big stadiums.
Yep.
It turns out they didn't need 90% of the market share, but that's what they have by 90%. People are like, well, that's a monopoly, right? That's what we call that. Obviously, that's a monopoly. Fred Rosen doesn't see it that way. According to Fred Rosen, quote, the only true monopoly in the business are the acts. An act decides how much it's going to play, how much it's going to charge. All the big acts in particular have total control over what they do. That's how Fred Rosen sees it, because there's only one Radiohead, right? There's only one Prince,
Right.
is what he's saying. But like, that's not what Monopoly is. Monopoly is the thing Ticketmaster is. It's clearly,
Yeah.
obviously, Monopoly. I don't know who he thinks he's fooling with this. I guess he's just a guy, the kind of guy who's always got to have an angle where he makes him self feel like he's smarter than you. If the acts the thing about it is, even if it's true, even if the acts were the big monopolies, like everybody would be fine with that,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody's here for the music. It's so if my favorite band makes a ridiculous amount of money when I go to see them, great. I like them. I'm glad they're making money. Nobody's like, oh, the poor venues, the poor promoters. Nobody got their cut, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but that's the argument that he makes, and actually, as it turns out, in 1991, that kind of gets borne out. Fred Rosen's argument kind of gets borne out by the justice system, which is very sad. In 1991, the American youth music scene is taken by storm by this crunchy, scratchy, screechy, heroin soaked, beflanneled new rock sound called grunge,
Yep.
right? I was not listening to grunge in 1991. I was mostly into like Raffi.
Yeah. We were 6-ish. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Raffi, occasionally Everly Brothers. My parents put on, I like the Everly Brothers a lot. What were you listening to in 1991, Meg?
In 1991, gosh, honestly, whatever my parents wanted to listen to, probably Billy Joel and Sting.
Hell
Both love
yeah.
them. Yeah.
A lot of Billy
A lot
Joel.
of music, a lot of musicals. My mom loves musicals,
Oh,
that kind of
really?
thing. Yeah.
What,
But then I was at, she loved Oliver, Les Mis,
mhm.
Phantom of the Opera. Those are the ones that come to mind. But yeah, I was thinking about that, like the sort of what were we listening to when, because like we were alive when grunge was around, but like I doubt I was engaging with that until I was like at least 12,
Totally.
so like late 90s.
Post Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness is when I
Yeah.
got into it, which was like way late.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember a lot of my friends, cool older siblings, having like Kurt Cobain posters and baggy jeans and long greasy hair. About 15 years later, I remember a lot of them. I heard a lot of them were just getting out of rehab. It's what grunge kind of did to a generation. But
Yeah.
it, kicked ass. People liked it a lot.
Yeah, I was in a Nirvana cover band in middle school.
Oh,
So let's
awesome.
let's say that would have been like 98-ish,
Yeah,
I guess, like I was like 13-ish. So it was just like a couple of years late, like a couple of years, like after that, my friends were really into Nirvana. So it's just sort of, I don't know. My personal trainer is a very young man. I was talking about this with him the other day. He's like 26. And my boyfriend and I go to him twice a week, and he always plays the same playlist. And it's often a lot of like grunge stuff. Like he loves Nirvana. And so I asked him that just this week. I was just like, "Did you grow up listening to this? Like, what is your relationship with it, given that you're so much younger?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, my dad really liked it."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Boy, that feels bad.
I know. Like, I doubt his dad is that much older than me, to be honest.
Oh boy, that just
But
made my whole body sag to hear that.
yeah,
But it is amazing that the influence of, like, I think it's hard to remember in the modern era. It's hard for people to imagine how popular grunge music was in the
right.
early 90s. Like you were in a Nirvana cover band in 1998.
Yeah,
7 years after Nevermind came out, and like five years after Kurt Cobain was dead, I think, something like that.
yeah,
It's popular in a way that this kind of like anti-commercial, anti-consumerist, you know, grungy sound, for lack of a better word, couldn't be in the modern music environment. I feel like. Nevermind in January of 1992. Nevermind is selling 300,000 copies a week. Soundgarden's blowing up. Alice in Chains is blowing up. And grunge music just cuts through demographics like crazy. The biggest new grunge band to hit the scene in 1991 is a Seattle band called Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam.
Yes.
Pearl Jam.
Nice.
Did you ever get into Pearl Jam?
I like them. I wouldn't say I've ever like listened to a full album, but
Yeah.
I do remember enjoying. They always had like great music videos. Like back when we all used to
Great
watch music videos. Yeah.
Great hooks.
Yeah.
I was never like a big Jam head, but I really like that one really pretty song of theirs that goes on a sinner, yeah. You know that one?
I don't know which song is that one.
I don't know. That's the one
You
that's the
know
one that goes like that.
that does a pretty good Eddie Vedder. Yeah.
Somebody
No,
write in.
It's very. I mean, I definitely he was a real charismatic guy. Music was
Hell yeah.
fun. You very imitatable.
Very imitatable.
But yeah, they were huge and they lasted obviously a lot longer than Nirvana did.
They sure did.
Are they still technically a band? Like, do they
I
tour?
don't know. Let me Google that. Is Pearl Jam still technically a band? Wikipedia says Pearl Jam is an American rock band. Not was. So yeah.
Did you go see them on tour?
Oh, Temple of the Dog was a spinoff. I didn't know that.
Could you go see them on tour?
I don't know. Pearl Jam tickets. Upcoming shows.
Looks like Eddie Vedder's doing a lot of solo stuff.
Is he? Yeah, no Pearl Jam shows scheduled right now.
Okay.
Which is fair. They've been around since 1991. They deserve a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredibly popular band. But they're by 1992. So like they formed in 1990. By 1992, they're playing for crowds of 10,000, 20,000 people. And when you get that big, all the industry players are going to want you to start charging more for tickets, right? They're going to be like, "Oh, why aren't you charging more? People will pay more. Why should you leave money on the table? You should charge more. That way you get rich, and all the middlemen get rich, and it works out for everybody." Pearl Jam doesn't want to play that game. It's very important to Pearl Jam, in particular Eddie Vedder, that their fans be able to afford to come to their shows. Like I said, grunge comes with this like anti-commercial ethos. They want to do their 1994 national tour for $18 ticket face value, full stop. Ticket service fees capped at 10% on an $18 ticket, and that way they think that's what their fans can afford. Their fans will be able to come to the shows. Ticketmaster says, if you're going to undercharge for tickets, then we're going to raise our service fee to what we think, so that the ticket will be what we think the market will bear. And you don't get to decide what our service fee is. We decide what the service fee is. We'll raise it to 30% if we have to get the money that we think we can make on Pearl Jam tickets.
Like, let me see Ticketmaster.
They fucking suck.
Yeah.
Like, what are you even doing here? Well, why are you even here, Ticketmaster? You're not doing anything anybody wants. But they have the contracts. They have all these exclusive contracts. And they get the CEO of the North American Concert Promoters Association to tell all the promoters, basically, if you work with Pearl Jam, you'll get sued. Don't work with Pearl Jam. So nobody will let them play. They have to cancel the tour.
Wow.
Yeah. Ticketmaster, at this point, Ticketmaster is telling the biggest band in the country, like, if you don't work with us, you can't tour.
If you don't charge a certain amount for your tickets,
right.
You can't work with us. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's sick. And through this, there's this bizarre series of events where Eddie Vedder ends up visiting the White House to help Bill Clinton, because after Kurt Cobain's death, Bill Clinton is asked, which gives you a sense of like how big grunge was. Again, is like Bill Clinton is asking Eddie Vedder to come to the White House and help him like message to the youth on Kurt Cobain's death, because it's such an important issue that the president needs to talk about it. So he does that. He gets this. So Eddie Vedder helps out Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton helps Pearl Jam spark a congressional antitrust investigation into Ticketmaster.
That's cool. I didn't know any of this. I mean, I had like a very, very faint idea of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know any of this either. I had no idea. I thought they were just the band with the horror songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. So like there ends up being a whole like investigation, congressional investigation. There's a hearing and everything. During the investigation, Ticketmaster makes Pearl Jam's life even more of a hell, to try to like intimidate them off the stand or whatever. They hire this shady motherfucker named Marty Bergman. Marty Bergman is a freelance private investigator and con artist who moves in DC circles. Marty Bergman gets in touch with congressional investigators and he tells them he's producing a segment for 60 Minutes on like the seedy underbelly of the concert industry. He's like, "Oh, you're investigating this. You're investigating Ticketmaster for antitrust. I would love to interview you and like know about all your sources and all your information, so that I can work on this 60 Minutes piece." And they talk to this guy for hours and hours, and give him all of their information, all of their dirt. Which immediately he turns around and goes to his brother, who's a journalist, and gets published in like rags about to like as like dirt against Pearl Jam. He finds out all the dirt on Pearl Jam and goes and publishes it in newspapers.
What was the dirt on Pearl Jam? Like
that they it's all kind of made up, but it's like he learns a lot about the contracts that Ticketmaster has with different artists, and how Pearl Jam was talking to Sony about like helping Sony launch a competing ticket vendor in the U.S., which didn't happen and may not have ever happened. But like Marty Bergman hears about it, a guy who heard about it from a guy, and that gets published, which makes Pearl Jam look, mercenary. Rather, it makes it look like Pearl Jam's, starting a whole thing just to get the money from Sony or whatever. But they he just like goes ahead and uses every piece of information he can get to slander Pearl Jam in the media. And we know very well that Pearl Jam hired them to do this. So that shows what kind of integrity is going on at the highest levels of this investigation. Yeah.
Yeah.
A few months later, one of these committee members is having dinner with Mike Wallace, the host of 60 Minutes, and he's like, "Hey, whatever happened to that segment you guys were making on the concert industry, that your producer interviewed me for?" And Mike Wallace is like, "What are you talking about? We're not doing a piece on the concert industry. Who told you that?" "Oh, well, I interviewed your producer came to talk to me. His name was like Marty Bergman." And Mike Wallace goes white, and he's like, "You talked to Marty fucking Bergman?
Oh, God.
How many hours did you talk to Marty Bergman? Oh, you're so fucked." And like he puts him on the phone with another guy from 60 Minutes who just tells him repeatedly, "Oh, no. Marty Bergman is a very bad man. Do not talk to Marty Bergman." But it's too late.
Marty Bergman's still around?
No, he's dead.
Oh, or what else he got up to in his life? Sounds like quite a character.
I don't think he ever got in trouble. I think he got up to a lot, but most of it is not on paper.
Yep.
But there does end up being a congressional hearing, and Pearl Jam argues that Ticketmaster is a monopoly that needs to be broken up, as you would expect them to argue. Ticketmaster, for their part, argues has this to say. This is Fred Rosen speaking to Congress in 1994.
We had no direct contact with them and told them that we would compromise in this area and that we would lower the service charge to $2.25 or $2.50 depending on the area. And the fact is that if the word compromise had been used, which is something that this great institution is built on, that's what Congress is built on, that's the way legislatures make things work, is by compromise, this problem might not have arisen to the level that it's on today. The fact of the matter is, both in band statements and in their memo that they submitted to Justice, they said This was it, take it or leave it, and that caused some of the problem.
Don't like this guy.
I don't like that guy at all. And it's true, Pearl Jam wasn't willing to compromise with Ticketmaster. But why the question doesn't come up, right? The investigation's not about this. The question society should be asking is why are they even in the position of having to compromise with Ticketmaster, which is an entity that again provides zero value to society and whose only power comes from this labyrinthine network of backroom deals that they've signed with venues. Anyway, the investigation ultimately gets dropped by the Janet Reno DOJ because the lawyers for the DOJ can't come up with a theory like a legal theory under which Ticketmaster is a monopoly and its monopoly power hurts its customers. So at first, they're working on the theory that like the ticket buyer is being harmed by the monopoly, which is true. But then they learn that really the ticket buyer is not Ticketmaster's customer. The venues and the promoters are the customers. So they're like, okay, well, our new theory is the venues and promoters are harmed by Ticketmaster's monopoly. So they go talk to the venues and promoters, and they're all like, oh, we love Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster's great. Like, we get so much money through Ticketmaster. That's fine. Of course they're a monopoly, but that's fine with us. That's cool. All my homies love Ticketmaster. And so the DOJ is like, well, we have no investigation here. They shut it down.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I said this as someone who did not remember enough about this to know how it turns out. I'm hearing about this now, and it makes me sad.
It's so sad. There was a moment, and there isn't a moment anymore, really, and we'll talk about it. Ticketmaster's going to have to die some other way, and it might take another 50 years. There was a moment when, like, a band that came out of like a counterculture could gain enough popularity that they could threaten Ticketmaster on the national stage. But they still couldn't beat them because Ticketmaster owns the infrastructure, and then they're completely insensitive to fan pressure.
So what happened to Pearl Jam? Like, obviously they've toured since then. How have they handled that?
Yeah, they ended up going back to working with Ticketmaster.
No.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, they kept touring, and then, honestly, they ended up doing the same thing every other band had to do because Ticketmaster owns all the Live Nation owns all the arenas, right?
Yeah.
The power of the act and the power of the ticket vendor are crossing at this moment, and Ticketmaster's influence on the music industry goes stratospheric after this point, as it puts them on a national stage and shows how willing they are to be the bad guy for promoters and venues, and how quickly power is going to like coalesce around a small group of. Now that Congress has shown they can't do anything with U.S. antitrust law against this, like everybody's just like, all right, well, I guess we're getting behind Ticketmaster. And so in part 2, we're going to talk about how, since nobody's going to stop them, Ticketmaster ends up swallowing up thousands of promoters, radio stations, and record labels in the years following this antitrust case.
Sounds not depressing at all.
Yeah. Did I warn you that this was a depressing podcast?
I figured this would be a depressing podcast. Honestly, like, yeah, this is there's a lot worse topics we could be covering. Like, this is, like, I do think the one thing about this is you do have the choice to not participate in this, whereas there's so many other things with technology where you do not have the choice at all.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where like people can just the some company like can just say, we're using this technology now, and you're using that technology now. Parking.
Yep.
Right. The fucking Park Mobile app that you have to download the app to pay for parking.
Don't like that one bit.
Should do an episode on that.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you, Meg, for coming.
Yeah,
to
thanks for
my
having me.
podcast. This has been fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah.
Do you want to do your plugs again?
Sure. Yeah. You can check me out on Instagram Meg doing improv, or I don't know. I really do feel like my birding account could use some more followers. So like if you like birds, check out Meg. I'm like looking this up. Meg goes birding. Meg does improv. Meg goes birding. And I'll post some pictures of birds, and you can give me some likes. I don't know. It's just a fun little hobby I have.
Do you ever post like videos where you can hear the bird?
No, I don't. I mean, I have not experimented with that yet, but maybe I should.
Birds make some pretty cool sounds. I think that might get.
They sure
might be
do.
good content.
They sure do. Yeah, and while we're promoting it, check out the Merlin app. It's an app you can download. It's free, and it's like SoundCloud for birds. So you just hold it up, and it tells you what bird you're hearing.
What's that bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, that rules. That's a good use of technology. I really like that.
Yeah, that's a great one. Cool.
All right, well, this has been Technology Blows with me, Dan Slimman, and my guest, Meg Sinick. I can't wait to see you next time when we'll finish the story of Ticketmaster being No-Face from Spirited Away and just swallowing up everybody else in the entire establishment. See you next time on Technology Blows.